Hello everyone, so before I start, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. I am a native Korean speaker who speaks English, so I don't have experience studying Korean from scratch because Korean is a language that I naturally absorbed and internalized ever since birth. So I cannot give specific tips on how to study Korean, but as an expert in a way in Korean language, because Korean is my mother tongue, I believe the advice that I'm sharing with you guys would be quite helpful throughout your learning journey, and you can always come back to my advice whenever you feel frustrated or bad about yourself for not improving fast enough. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First, you'll never be like native speakers, nor do you have to be. So this sounds like sad news, but this can also be good news. So let me explain. Unless you grew up in Korea, surrounded by Korean people, Korean culture, and Korean language 24/7, there's inevitable and very natural and humanly limitation that you simply cannot overcome. And I think it's important to know this beforehand in order to prevent disappointment in yourself or unnecessary frustration. Because I've seen quite a lot of examples. For example, a few years ago, my friend who had been learning Korean for about 4 years back then invited me to a Korean play because she had an extra ticket. And it was a great play. It was a comedy, and I found it very hilarious. But after the play was finished, my friend seemed quite upset, and she said she still cannot understand everything that happened in the play, and she could not laugh along with the audience when the performers cracked jokes or there was a humorous element in the play. And one thing to note here is that she scored quite high marks in TOPIK test. I think there are certain elements about Korean humor or the way Korean language is used in general that are, unless you are a native speaker who have fully grown up here, it's quite difficult to get. And even for me, it's difficult to explain to people who are not fully familiar with our culture and our language. So it's only very natural that you don't fully understand certain elements about the language. But I think this limitation also enables you to have your own unique style of speaking and writing Korean, your own charm and your own spice to how you use the language. And you can even make up your own humor that is not conventionally used among native Korean speakers, which means you can use Korean more, diversely and uniquely and exquisitely. And Koreans will find that different style of speaking and writing quite appealing. So please, consider it a natural limitation that can also work as an advantage to you. Second, that being said, it's important that you learn from native speakers and strive to be like native speakers. They say aim at 100% and you'll fall on 70%, and aim at 70% and you'll fall on 30%. So it's important to aim high. I agree that sometimes people who learn Korean as a second language can be a better teacher in Korean more than native Korean people themselves, because you guys have in common that you studied Korean from scratch. But I believe there's no better resources, and yes, I said resources, than native speakers when you're trying to learn the language, because they are the perfect model for you. They just naturally know so many phrases and words that you don't know, and they immediately know what sounds natural and unnatural. And from them, you can pick up words, idioms, and even sentences that you have never heard before or that you didn't know before. So consider every encounter with a Korean person or people an opportunity to learn even just a few words. You don't necessarily have to go talk to a stranger, but you can simply make the most of any encounter with a Korean person. For example, you can pay attention to a conversation between native speakers while you're in the subway or waiting for the bus, or when you're in the restaurant. You can pay attention to what kinds of words that the waitress is using when you're ordering something in the restaurant. Things like that. And I know that the word resource could possibly offend some of you because it sounds like using people to upgrade your Korean. But I hope you think of it more as using this opportunity to get more connected with the Korean language and Korean people, not the other way around. Third, don't trust. 한국말 진짜 잘한다. Said by Korean people. So we Koreans generally have very low standard when it comes to evaluating foreigners' Korean skill. If you say just a few phrases correctly, they'll go like, wow, your Korean is really good. It's becoming less that way now, but still so many of us are not really used to, nor do we expect foreigners to speak Korean even when you're in Korea. So they say that out of genuine surprise that somebody would even bother to learn Korean, but not necessarily because they're impressed by how fluent you really are. And I'm not saying this to discourage you, but I think it's good to know this, especially for beginners, not to get confused, like, is she making fun of me? Am I really that good? And get, the wrong idea. Fourth, language is a lifelong journey, not a one-off achievement. And I know it sounds super cheesy and cliche, but I think it's something that many learners forget because at some point it's easy to get tied up in a competitive race or the game of adding something more on your personal resume. But it's only natural that everybody has different pace, different style of learning, and different reason behind why they're learning the language. So please don't rush it and don't focus on the speed and focus more on consistency if you really want to improve. If you are super enthusiastic about learning Korean and you study it every day for 12 straight months, of course your Korean will improve very fast, but not everybody has the same level of enthusiasm and time. So respect your own pace and don't rush it, and most importantly, have fun with it. Learn it and use it like you're playing the game. So you learn the rules, you start playing, and you make lots of mistakes while playing, and you keep trying until you make it. And even if you don't make it today, there's always tomorrow for you to practice more. That way, slowly but surely, you will sense that your Korean is getting better and better each day. Not perfect, but better. So do it consistently, enjoy it, and it'll naturally come to you. 5. The last advice is for people who haven't started learning Korean yet but are thinking of learning it in the future or just have curiosity. Learning a foreign language will not only broaden your perspective about the world, but most importantly, on a personal level, it'll humble you. Actually, learning anything that's new is a very humbling experience because you come to terms with everything that you have to improve on, and you experience what it's like to be the dumbest person in the room. So unless it's like a serious interruption to your life, I hope you start learning from the beginning and come to terms with your weaknesses with each stage and humble yourself every day. And the best part is you'll also experience the sweet reward that comes after your struggle, and that will constantly motivate you. And even if you happen to stop or take a break from your learning for a while, in the future when you start again, it'll all come back to you and it wouldn't be a complete zero. So if you are afraid to start because you are afraid that you might give up somewhere along the way, please don't be afraid and just take the first step because each step has its own worth. So that was it. 5 advice for Korean learners from a native Korean speaker. I hope you liked it, and I think it's applicable to learning any other languages as well. So I really hope you found it even just a bit helpful, and I wish you all the best in whatever language that you're learning or whatever it is that you just started learning or are in the midst of learning. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.